Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today is Monday, which means it's time for an episode of Loadout, the series where you guys, the viewers, get to pick a weapon and customization for me to use. The way you do this is you leave a comment down below letting me know what kind of gun and accessories you'd like me to run with, and I will pick one of the top rated comments for the next episode of Loadout. Today's top comment comes from Gregory Bello. He says, the Hitman Stealth Loadout. Primary is the JNG-90 bolt-action sniper rifle with an 8x rifle scope on there. The attachment would be a suppressor, which is optional in this case, and then a bipod. Secondary is the M1911 with a suppressor on there. It's supposed to represent the silver ballers. No gadgets whatsoever. Then we're going to use smoke grenades since he didn't have a grenade. The knife will be the BJ2. Field upgrade is Spec Ops. With the film Agent 47 released in August and their new game coming out next year, this is quite a high point for the Hitman franchise. Now personally, I think I only played the first ever Hitman game, and that was quite a while ago, so I don't remember too much about the Hitman game other than he had those cool dual stealth pistols. I guess they were 1911s with big suppressors on them. As for the movies, I can't claim to have seen those either. One came out in 2007 and one this year, 2015, and maybe I'll check them out actually. I mean, I'm always up for a good action flick. Now as far as this loadout goes, when I don't have any gadgets, spawn beacon, C4, motion sensors, I really do have to be as stealth and as cautious as possible because I don't have any good backup weapons to switch to. I mean, I don't do anything if there's armor, I just have to try and avoid it and take out infantry from afar. My best weapon here is the JNG-90. I opted to not go with the suppressor on here, so I'd be more effective at those longer range engagements. The 1911 suppressed is okay in close quarters, but only for dealing with one target. So if I've got a number of guys coming after me, I'm not in a good situation. And as cool as it is that Hitman dual wields 1911s, I think that would just be a bit out of place in Battlefield. I mean, sure, akimbo weapons have made it into a lot of popular shooters, but I hope they keep it out of Battlefield for as long as possible, because it never really makes sense to hold two pistols at a time. I mean, somebody could argue that somewhere it was tactically advantageous, but let's be honest, you're probably not going to be too accurate when dual wielding handguns. Now when it comes to the bolt action sniper rifles, the JNG-90 is definitely in my top 3. One thing that I absolutely love about this sniper rifle is that it has the fastest muzzle velocity in the game. It's tied with one other bolt action rifle, but in terms of the really high powered bolt action rifles, this is going to be an excellent one for hitting moving targets and long range targets. The damage drop off isn't as good as some of the other bolt action snipers out there, but as long as you're landing headshots, you should be fine regardless of what range you hit them at. The downside is that this weapon does have one of the slower rechambering times. It's about 1 round every 2 seconds, so it's going to take you a little while to get your next shot on target. If you miss your first shot at medium range, you're practically guaranteed dead unless your opponent is really slow on the uptake and takes a while to start returning fire. But that is one of the downsides, and the fact that we're using the bipod on this weapon instead of the straight pole bolt means that that rechambering time is going to take longer if you're not adept at like minimizing your scope as quick as possible and rechambering that round. Sometimes I like to follow my shot in and sort of see where it lands, and having a straight pole bolt allows me to do that because I know I can rechamber around as fast as possible. Now bipods, it's on the weapon. I'm not going to use it. I think the whole principle of bipods in Battlefield just doesn't work. It's not necessarily that Battlefield's a bad sniping game. It's a fun sniping game. It's just a totally unrealistic sniping game. If you're actually doing sniping somewhere in actual combat, you're going to be held up in a building, you're going to have a small hole that you're shooting out of, you're not going to have to worry about moving around and trying to dodge sniper shots while you're returning sniper shots. I mean, sniping in Battlefield is fun, it is just about as far from realistic sniping as you could ever get. And actually, back when I was playing a little bit of Arma with Luton, we did a sniper video. It's actually one of the more popular videos on my channel right now, but it's got more realistic sniping gameplay. I'm not going to say it's like 100% realistic to real life sniping, but the distance that we're engaging targets at is more realistic, and the fact that we're prone, not moving, stationary on top of hilltops, shooting extremely long ranges, it's a much more realistic sensation than this kind of running around, jumping off of things, quick scoping in and trying to deal with targets. You have time to zero in your scope properly. You have time to wait till your target stops moving and then take your shot much more accurately. It's pretty fun. I'll link that video in the description, or you can click on the card that's in this video. Now, I tried playing a bunch of different game modes. I really didn't want to just shuffle my way back into TDM because that is the most consistent way to get constant action with any class in this game, and sure, it was where I got most of my good sniper footage. I got a little bit on Rush. Rush is definitely one of the better game modes to play for recon, but you have to be playing on the right map, so you can't control your situations quite as much unless you're on the perfect map for it. Conquest can be fun to snipe on, but since it's so open on Conquest, chances are you're going to get flanked from a certain location. Once you kill one guy, you're on the kill cam, and then they'll be able to flank you from any direction, so you really have to be on your toes if you're trying to snipe in Conquest. As for TDM, I find that 64-player TDM actually works well if you're playing on the right maps, because what happens when you're playing in 64-player TDM, since none of the maps are designed for it, you usually create map separation, sort of front lines. One team controls one half of the map, the other team controls the other half of the map, and if you're playing a sniper class, you can usually just stay in some point at the back of the map, and there's so many enemy players in such a small area that you can usually just watch one or two angles and have enough targets to shoot at reliably. In fact, you can get top of the scoreboard if you know what you're doing on the appropriate maps. Flood Zone can be an okay map for it if you're in the perfect locations. You usually don't want a very small, close quarter map for it, so don't go to the lower levels of Flood Zone by any means. Gold Mud Railway can be okay for it. Linking Dam, if you stay on the outskirts of the map, is again a good TDM sniping map, and other than that, just try and stick to the wide open rush maps and you'll do just fine. You just have to remember that when using a bolt action class, literally the only point at which you have an advantage over your opponent is at extreme ranges. Medium range, you're going to be outgunned by machine guns, assault rifles, carbines, just about every kind of weapon on the battlefield, so you have to get your advantage in the distance. When people get too close to you, that's when you need to rely on your teammates, switch to your sidearm, just try and avoid combat altogether. You're only going to do well when engaging at those extreme ranges, and I know it sounds like common sense, but it's just one of those things that when you play this class, you don't have versatility. You can only be effective in one single type of situation. That being said, the sniper class can actually be quite demoralizing to an offensive team and slow down what would have otherwise been a very aggressive push. I mean, honestly, the most effective tactic in, say, a rush game is for the offensive team to be constantly aggressive, constantly in the enemy team's face, and not giving them time to recuperate and rebuild their defenses. And once you shut down their first aggressive push, like if you snipe one of the guys in the head who's right in the leader in the front of the pack, the rest of his teammates are going to slow down and start to play a bit more cautiously. And once they start slowing down, it gives you more opportunities to snipe them, more snipers on your team can start harassing them, and things become very, very difficult very quickly. And then when you start seeing a lot of snipers on the offensive side of Rush, you know that you're doing something right there, because people are feeling like they can't even get close enough, so they start switching to the sniper class to try and deal with you, and at that point the game is probably over when an offensive team has like 5 or 6 or 10 snipers. Like, they're just not going to have enough offensive power to actually break through and take those MCOMs. Anyway, the loadout was fine. I don't know how much it actually replicated what Hitman would be doing. I would much prefer straight pull bolt on there instead of the bipod, since I didn't really use the bipod altogether. And of course, gadgets are going to make it significantly more effective. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and don't forget to leave your comments down below for next week's episode of Loadout. I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap signing off.